Have you ever felt like something small was silently pushing people away from you? Could your daily habits be quietly shaping how others see you without you even realizing it? And what if fixing these issues didn't require big changes, but just a little awareness and reflection? You see, it's not always the loud arguments or dramatic conflicts that cause emotional distance between older individuals and their loved ones. More often than not, it's the little things. Those everyday behaviors that seem harmless, but slowly erode the bond over time. These subtle habits, when left unrecognized, can lead to feelings of isolation and misunderstanding on both sides. If you've ever asked yourself why some relationships feel strained as we grow older, or why it's harder to connect with the younger generation, this video may have the answers you didn't even know you needed. We're going to walk through 12 common behaviors that, though often unintentional, have a powerful impact on how seniors are perceived by others. But more importantly, we'll also discuss the reasons behind these behaviors and offer insights into how to build stronger, more understanding connections instead of allowing silence to widen the gap. Before we dive in, if you find this video helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button. That helps me continue sharing practical health and lifestyle lessons for older adults. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and click that button, then turn on the bell so you never miss a helpful update. Now, let's begin with the first behavior: resisting new ideas and technology. It's perfectly natural to find comfort in the familiar. That's something we all share, no matter our age. But when that comfort turns into a refusal to explore new things, it can quietly create distance. This resistance might show up as dismissing smartphones, tablets, or even basic apps without giving them a chance. Or it might be rejecting modern ideas or cultural trends simply because they feel foreign or overwhelming. While it may seem like a small stance, over time, this rigid mindset can send a message to loved ones that you're not open to engaging with the world they live in. And that unspoken gap between what feels familiar and what's now common can grow wider if we don't address it gently and thoughtfully. This resistance often shows up in subtle ways, like brushing off the idea of using social media platforms such as X, Zoom, or FaceTime, or dismissing new trends in music, fashion, or lifestyle with a quick eye roll. You might hear someone say, "I don't need a smartphone. My flip phone works just fine," or chuckle dismissively at something like TikTok or the popularity of plant-based diets. While these reactions may seem harmless at first, they can create a deeper divide than we realize. In today's increasingly digital and interconnected society, especially for the younger generations, technology isn't just a convenience. It's the primary language of communication and connection. So when a senior openly resists engaging with these tools, it may unintentionally come across as a rejection of the younger person's world. This can be especially true when those shared digital experiences, like sending a funny meme, joining a group video chat, or simply sharing photos, become unavailable due to this gap. Over time, this growing distance may lead to fewer moments of genuine connection. Grandchildren may stop sending daily updates if they know grandma or grandpa isn't on WhatsApp or doesn't check messages. Friends might hesitate to include someone in a group conversation if they're not familiar with texting or group chats. What starts as a preference for the old way can slowly close the door to new memories and shared experiences. And it's not just about social life. Resisting technology also limits practical independence. Nowadays, everyday tasks like paying bills, booking doctor appointments, attending support groups, or even ordering groceries are done online. Without basic digital literacy, older adults may find themselves dependent on others for simple tasks they could otherwise manage on their own. This reliance can cause tension within families. Loved ones often step in to help, printing documents, making phone calls, filling out forms. While it's done with love, the added responsibility can create stress and resentment over time, especially when it's ongoing. At the heart of this resistance is often not stubbornness, but fear. Fear of doing something wrong, of not understanding, or of feeling overwhelmed by change. The truth is, technology doesn't have to be mastered overnight. Even a small step, like learning to send a simple text message or joining a short video call, can spark a sense of connection and open new doors. And let's be honest, isn't it worth exploring just a little bit of discomfort today, if it means gaining the ability to stay closely connected to the people who matter most? Being open to learning new things doesn't mean abandoning the past. It means opening doors to richer, more meaningful connections in the present. When older adults express curiosity and accept patient, non-judgmental guidance, say, a grandchild helping them learn how to use FaceTime, it becomes more than just a tech lesson. It's an act of bridging generations. That simple gesture demonstrates openness and respect on both sides, helping seniors stay connected to the lives of their loved ones and creating a shared experience rooted in understanding. Now, let's talk about another common behavior that quietly pushes people away: constant complaining and negativity. It's entirely natural, and even healthy, for anyone, at any age, to share frustrations or talk about life's challenges. As we grow older, those challenges can multiply. There are real struggles with health, finances, loss, and changes that come with aging. Venting can be a way to cope. However, when nearly every conversation centers around complaints, grievances, or negative observations, the emotional atmosphere can begin to feel heavy and exhausting for those nearby. You might hear things like, "Everything hurts today," or "This world is falling apart," or even, "No one respects me anymore." These comments may reflect genuine pain or frustration, but when there's no balance, no moments of appreciation, no curiosity about others, no shared laughter, it slowly erodes the emotional energy of those who listen. Over time, conversations may start to feel one-sided and burdensome. Instead of joy or connection, loved ones may begin to associate those interactions with tension or emotional fatigue. For example, a young adult might feel a pang of hesitation before calling a parent or grandparent, knowing the call may turn into 30 minutes of complaints about health problems or bitter commentary on the state of the world. Even with the best intentions, the listener may begin to pull back, not out of disrespect, but out of a need to protect their own peace of mind. What's even more concerning is how this pattern can begin to cloud how others see the older adult. Their wisdom, humor, resilience, all the beautiful, powerful traits they've developed over a lifetime, can be overshadowed by a cloud of constant dissatisfaction. It risks reducing their identity to their problems, and that's a loss for everyone involved. It not only strains family bonds, but also creates emotional isolation, even in the presence of others. Moreover, the younger generation, who often value optimism, solution-focused thinking, and open communication, might start to view persistent negativity as a sign of disconnection or even disapproval. This makes it harder for them to relate, and the emotional gap only widens. When conversations always seem to circle back to complaints, it's important to recognize where that pattern may be coming from. Often, this tendency toward negativity doesn't arise out of nowhere. It may stem from chronic pain, long-term health conditions, or the emotional toll of feeling isolated or irrelevant. Sometimes it's simply the result of years spent focusing more on what's lacking than what's going well. But that doesn't mean it's unchangeable. With the right tools and support, it's possible to shift this emotional tone. One powerful approach is practicing intentional gratitude. Even writing down just one or two things each day that brought a smile can rewire our attention toward the positive. Therapy or support groups can also offer safe, structured spaces to express difficult emotions while receiving validation and perspective. And sometimes, engaging in simple, joyful activities like gardening, painting, or volunteering can help reignite purpose and lighten emotional heaviness. Family members and caregivers play a crucial role too. By gently guiding the conversation toward more uplifting topics, they can help foster emotional balance. A thoughtful response like, "I'm really sorry you've been feeling sore, but was there anything this week that made you laugh or feel good?" can redirect the moment in a way that feels both compassionate and encouraging. This not only acknowledges the pain, but also creates space for something brighter. As older adults begin to bring more balance into their conversations, they often find that others respond more warmly. Emotional connections become easier to maintain, and loved ones are more likely to stay engaged, feeling that they are part of something uplifting rather than draining. Now, let's move into another behavior that, while often well-meaning, can also unintentionally create distance. And that's the tendency to relive the past excessively. Telling stories from years gone by can be a powerful and beautiful way to connect with younger generations. It helps preserve family memories and allows wisdom to be passed on. A childhood adventure, a pivotal moment in history, or a story of resilience, these can be fascinating and deeply meaningful. But problems arise when these stories are told too often, at length, and without much awareness of the listener's current context. When conversations begin to revolve solely around the past, and the same anecdotes are repeated over and over again, it can leave others feeling like their own experiences or viewpoints aren't being acknowledged. The intent may be to bond, but the result may feel more like a monologue than a mutual exchange. Sometimes, conversations with older adults can feel stuck in a loop. The same high school prom story, the same tale about a job from decades ago. While these memories are meaningful and deeply personal, repeating them every time often leaves little space for meaningful dialogue about what's happening now or what's coming next. Younger family members who are in the midst of shaping their lives, starting careers, raising kids, discovering new hobbies, may feel unseen or unheard when the conversation constantly shifts back to how things used to be. Imagine a teenager, excited to talk about their new passion project, only to be interrupted with, "Back in my day, we didn't need all that." Over time, this one-sided rhythm turns conversations into monologues rather than mutual exchanges. Emotional closeness begins to fade, and interactions feel more like obligations than opportunities to connect. Beyond just the content of the stories, a constant emphasis on the past can unintentionally send the message that the present doesn't matter. Or worse, that the older adult is no longer interested in the world evolving around them. In today's fast-moving society, this disconnection can deepen the gap between generations, leaving fewer shared moments and growing emotional distance. Of course, this behavior is rarely malicious. It often stems from a natural desire to hold on to one's formative years. As we age, memories take on greater emotional weight. They feel familiar, safe, even comforting when compared to the uncertainty or physical changes of the present. But here's the good news. Honoring the past doesn't have to come at the cost of engaging with the present. A simple shift in approach can make all the difference. Older adults might start by tying their stories to the lives of their loved ones. For example, instead of saying, "When I was your age, we didn't have internships," they could say, "That reminds me of my first job out of school. How's your new internship going?" This creates a bridge rather than a wall. Family members can also support this shift, showing appreciation for past stories while gently redirecting the conversation toward shared interests helps keep the connection alive and reciprocal. When nostalgia is paired with curiosity, asking about new music, current challenges, or dreams for the future, the conversation becomes richer and far more engaging. By blending past and present, what was once a repetitive exchange can blossom into a deeper, more inclusive interaction that celebrates the journey of everyone at the table. Now, let's turn to another behavior that, though rooted in care and experience, can quietly damage relationships if not handled mindfully, offering unsolicited advice or criticism. Certainly, Nguyen Gia Thiem. Dưới đây là phiên bản viết lại của phần tiếp theo, tuân thủ nghiêm ngặt mọi yêu cầu của bạn, với phong cách chia sẻ từ một bác sĩ giàu kinh nghiệm, phù hợp với nội dung sức khỏe cho người lớn tuổi.
When older adults frequently offer unsolicited advice or share overly critical remarks, Even with good intentions, it can quietly damage relationships and chip away at mutual respect. Take, for example, phrases like, "You're doing it all wrong. Let me show you how to parent." Or, "Back in my day, we didn't waste money on things like that." Though such comments may stem from a desire to help, they often come across as dismissive or condescending. At the heart of the issue lies a failure to consider the autonomy and lived experience of others. These statements, whether about parenting, careers, or lifestyle choices, can unintentionally suggest that the other person's decisions are flawed, or worse, that their judgment isn't trustworthy. Over time, this behavior creates emotional distance. Younger family members or friends may begin to feel criticized, misunderstood, or even undervalued. Imagine being a young parent trying to navigate a new chapter in life, only to be met with constant, "you should have" statements. The result? They might start holding back, no longer sharing their plans, struggles, or milestones, just to avoid criticism. Eventually, family gatherings may feel more like a test to be passed than a place of support. Conversations grow shallow, and authentic connection fades into the background. Interestingly, this pattern of behavior isn't always rooted in negativity. In many cases, it reflects a sincere desire to pass on wisdom or shield loved ones from mistakes. It can also arise from a discomfort with changing norms, or even a subconscious belief that age automatically grants superior insight. In some cultures, direct guidance was once seen as an expression of love and care. But in today's world, where individuality and personal boundaries are highly valued, the delivery of advice often matters just as much as the message itself. So what's the alternative? One powerful shift is to begin with permission. A simple question like, "Would you like to hear how I handled something similar?" opens the door for respectful exchange. It acknowledges the other person's agency and shows that you value their voice in the conversation. This small adjustment can transform advice from a source of conflict into a gift of perspective, shared only when welcomed. By practicing active listening and waiting for the right moment, older adults can maintain closeness and relevance without unintentionally creating walls. It's not about withholding wisdom. It's about offering it in a way that strengthens connection rather than weakening it. When offering feedback, how it's delivered can make all the difference. Instead of stating opinions as absolutes, try framing your concerns in a way that reflects care and curiosity. Saying something like, "I've noticed you seem a bit stressed. Have you found anything that helps you unwind?" shows empathy without sounding like judgment. It opens the door to conversation rather than conflict. On the flip side, loved ones can also maintain healthy boundaries by calmly expressing their need for autonomy. A statement such as, "I appreciate your input, but I'm figuring this out my way for now," allows for respectful distance while still honoring the relationship. These simple exchanges, rooted in mutual respect, foster a space where both generations feel heard, without anyone having to sacrifice their sense of self or confidence. Now let's turn to a challenge that many older adults face: the difficulty of accepting help or adapting to change. For many seniors, especially those who've lived independent, self-reliant lives, the idea of needing assistance can feel like surrendering a part of their identity. Independence, after all, isn't just about doing things on your own. It's also about dignity, pride, and purpose. But as physical strength or cognitive clarity begin to shift, refusing help with everyday tasks like bathing, cooking, or managing medications can unintentionally create tension. Loved ones, whether adult children, spouses, or close friends, often step in with genuine intentions. They want to ease burdens, not take over control. Yet when these offers are rejected repeatedly, it can be disheartening. Take the example of an older adult who insists on driving, despite noticeable vision problems, or refuses home care services, convinced they can manage everything alone. While their determination is admirable, it can also place them, and others, at risk. Over time, those who care most may begin to feel shut out or helpless,
unsure how to support without overstepping. The emotional toll can grow, leading to burnout, resentment, or withdrawal of support. Beyond the immediate relationship dynamics, an unwillingness to adapt can narrow one's world. Refusing to transition into a safer living space or avoiding technologies that simplify daily life can shrink social circles and limit opportunities for meaningful experiences. For example, declining to join a vibrant senior community out of fear of change might mean missing out on friendships, activities, and new joys. Saying no to change, in this sense, often means saying no to connection. To address this, open communication is key. Conversations grounded in patience, understanding, and mutual goals can pave the way for compromise. Change doesn't have to feel like a loss. It can be a doorway to a new chapter, where support enhances freedom, and adaptation becomes an act of self-care rather than surrender. In these delicate situations, it's essential for loved ones to approach with compassion, recognizing the older adult's strong desire to remain self-reliant. Instead of pushing assistance, frame it as a way to preserve freedom and reduce unnecessary risks. A simple shift in perspective can make all the difference. For example, saying, "Using a walker will help you keep visiting your friends safely," reinforces that support is not a limitation. It's a tool for independence. Sometimes, professional help such as counseling or occupational therapy can also offer valuable guidance. These services not only address the emotional resistance to change, but also help tailor adaptive strategies that fit the individual's values, personality, and lifestyle. With the right support, adjusting to change doesn't have to feel like giving in. It can feel like growing wisely. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum lies another challenge: becoming overly dependent on others. While aging naturally brings the need for more help, especially with complex tasks like managing finances or lifting heavy items, some older adults may begin to rely too much on others for tasks they are still very capable of handling. Things like getting dressed, making meals, or even deciding what to watch on TV, when consistently handed off, can subtly chip away at both dignity and relationship balance. This kind of overdependence often stems from deeper roots. It might be a fear of making mistakes, a drop in self-confidence, or even an unconscious desire to feel nurtured and noticed. And while these feelings are completely human, they can place an unspoken burden on those providing care. Imagine a daughter who works full-time, manages her own family, and also spends hours doing things her parent could still do themselves. The emotional weight of that dynamic can become heavy very quickly. Over time, this imbalance can cause caregivers to feel overwhelmed, manipulated, or even unappreciated, especially when their efforts are constant and their own needs are put on hold. Resentment may build, communication may suffer, and the warmth in the relationship can slowly fade. But here's something important to remember. Excessive dependence not only impacts those around the older adult, it also affects the individual's own sense of purpose. When someone stops trying, stops doing, and simply receives, their sense of agency gradually weakens. It can lead to a cycle of helplessness that reinforces passivity and diminishes their motivation to stay active or engaged. To create healthier dynamics, striking a balance between offering help and encouraging autonomy is key. Caregivers can establish gentle boundaries, offering support where needed while still empowering the older adult to do what they can. For instance, instead of cooking an entire meal, they might involve their loved one in prepping vegetables or choosing the recipe. Even small roles can reignite a sense of contribution and control. By approaching these moments with sensitivity and structure, families can preserve both respect and connection, ensuring that support lifts everyone up rather than weighing anyone down. Building confidence is a gradual process, and professionals like occupational therapists or social workers can play a crucial role in supporting that journey. By carefully assessing an individual's abilities, they can suggest adaptive tools, establish structured routines, or offer strategies that empower older adults to regain control over their daily lives. These interventions don't just improve function, they also help rebuild self-worth. Having open, honest conversations about shared responsibilities with loved ones can create a more balanced dynamic. When approached with compassion and clarity, these discussions nurture dignity and foster a renewed sense of purpose in aging adults. Now let's explore another behavior that can unintentionally damage an older person's social image: ignoring social cues and boundaries. As people age, changes in cognitive function or emotional regulation can sometimes lead to behaviors that seem out of sync with their surroundings. This isn't always intentional, but the effects can be just as impactful. For instance, some older individuals may interrupt conversations frequently, speak too loudly in quiet environments, or make overly personal remarks in casual settings. Others might dominate discussions, not realizing that they're preventing others from contributing. These habits, though subtle, can slowly push people away. In some cases, these changes are linked to neurological conditions like mild cognitive impairment or early dementia, which can diminish a person's ability to interpret social situations accurately. But sometimes, it's not medical at all. It could stem from a growing sense of frustration, loneliness, or even a desire to reclaim attention in environments where they feel overlooked. Whatever the cause, the consequences often include discomfort, tension, and increasing distance between the older adult and the people around them. Imagine being in a group setting where your elderly relative constantly cuts others off or shares private details without hesitation. Over time, friends or family members may begin to avoid visits or limit conversations, simply to avoid awkward or upsetting situations. And slowly but surely, this leads to emotional distancing. The warmth that once defined a relationship may cool, not from a lack of love, but from an accumulation of unspoken discomfort. This pattern can lead to a troubling cycle. As relationships weaken, social isolation creeps in. And that isolation can worsen cognitive and emotional challenges, making social reconnection even harder. So, what can we do? The key lies in compassionate, real-time intervention. Loved ones can gently redirect conversations, suggest a change of topic, or model respectful communication themselves. For example, if an older adult asks an intrusive question, a calm response like, "That might be a bit too personal, let's talk about something else," can guide the interaction without embarrassment. Especially when cognitive changes are a factor, patience becomes essential. It's not about correction, it's about connection. Through kindness and consistent reinforcement, older adults can be reminded of respectful social engagement while still feeling seen, valued, and included. If cognitive impairment is suspected, such as early-stage dementia or hearing loss, it's important to seek a professional evaluation. These medical issues can often contribute to missed social cues or inappropriate responses. Understanding whether a health condition is playing a role allows families to respond with both empathy and the right resources. In cases where the behavior isn't rooted in cognitive decline, but is instead shaped by personality, habit, or attitude, it becomes even more essential to approach the situation with clarity and kindness. Setting respectful but firm boundaries, like explaining how certain actions affect others, can help foster greater self-awareness. For example, saying, "When you interrupt others, it makes it hard for everyone to feel heard," can gently shine a light on the behavior without sounding accusatory. Additionally, structured group activities or social skills workshops, especially those facilitated by trained professionals, can offer safe environments where older adults can practice more mindful communication and rebuild lost confidence in social settings. Now let's talk about something that silently poisons relationships if left unchecked: holding on to grudges and long-standing resentments. For many older adults, past hurts may still feel fresh, even if they occurred decades ago. Whether it's a family conflict, betrayal by a friend, or a lingering sense of injustice, carrying unresolved anger can turn into a heavy emotional burden. Instead of staying in the past, it spills into present interactions, casting a shadow over conversations and gatherings. You might hear repeated references to a sibling dispute from the 1980s or a falling out with a neighbor that still stings today. While the pain may be real, continuously revisiting these grievances can create a toxic emotional environment. Loved ones who had nothing to do with the original event may feel unfairly blamed or emotionally drained, unsure of how to offer support without becoming entangled in the negativity. And as they begin to avoid those interactions, the older adult may interpret the distance as further evidence of betrayal or rejection. This cycle becomes self-perpetuating. The more one holds on to resentment, the more isolated they feel. The more isolated they feel, the more resentment builds. Over time, it can quietly fracture even the strongest family bonds and erode long-standing friendships, leaving the older adult surrounded by silence instead of support. Breaking this cycle isn't easy, but it is possible. It starts by addressing the pain at its source. Professional therapy or counseling can provide a safe, non-judgmental space for processing these old wounds. A skilled therapist can guide individuals toward forgiveness, not necessarily reconciliation, but letting go for their own peace of mind. Family members can help too, by listening with compassion while gently steering conversations away from repetitive complaints. They create an atmosphere of care without feeding the cycle. Asking questions like, "Is there anything that's bringing you peace these days?" Or, "What's something you're looking forward to?" can slowly shift focus from past bitterness to present healing. Shifting conversations toward more neutral or uplifting topics can go a long way in breaking the cycle of resentment. Encouraging older adults to engage in emotionally fulfilling activities like journaling, creative arts, volunteering, or even light gardening can help redirect their energy toward healing and growth rather than past grievances. These activities offer not only a sense of purpose, but also moments of joy that invite more meaningful dialogue. For families navigating long-standing tensions, sometimes a neutral third party, such as a counselor or family mediator, can help facilitate difficult conversations. These guided discussions create a safe environment where both sides feel heard and respected, opening the door to reconciliation and a more harmonious family dynamic. Now let's explore another subtle but impactful behavior: the shift from making respectful requests to issuing firm, uncompromising demands. When an older adult begins to express their needs in a way that feels more like giving orders than asking for help, it can quietly erode the warmth that once defined their relationships. Instead of gentle collaboration, interactions start to feel like obligations. Over time, this can create emotional tension that's hard to ignore. This shift often stems from a complicated blend of emotional and physical vulnerability. As aging brings changes to mobility, independence, and decision-making, some may cope by trying to assert control wherever they can. Unfortunately, that often shows up as impatience, insistence, or even a tone of entitlement. For example, instead of asking, "Would you mind picking up my prescription when you have a chance?" they might say, "You need to get my medicine now." It's not always said out of malice. It may come from frustration, fear of being forgotten, or simply not realizing how their words land. But for caregivers and family members juggling their own responsibilities, this demanding tone can feel heavy, even hurtful. Over time, if left unaddressed, these repeated demands can weaken trust and goodwill. The caregiver may begin to feel more like an employee than a loved one. What once was a relationship built on mutual respect can slowly be replaced by quiet resentment, emotional distance, or even burnout. So how do we navigate this delicate challenge? Open, respectful communication is essential. Instead of reacting with frustration, family members can gently model more collaborative dialogue. Phrases like, "Let's figure out a time that works for both of us," or "I'd be happy to help. Can we plan it together?" can set the tone for shared decision-making. It's also important to dig deeper. Behind every demand is usually a deeper emotion, perhaps fear, sadness, or a sense of helplessness. A calm conversation or even professional counseling may help uncover and address those underlying feelings. When older adults feel heard and empowered, the need to control every detail often begins to soften naturally. Wouldn't it be better to foster cooperation rather than conflict, even in the smallest of daily routines? Support systems like counseling or guided communication training can empower older adults to express their needs more respectfully and constructively. When mutual understanding replaces frustration, relationships have the chance to blossom again, regaining the balance, warmth, and dignity they once held. Now let's take a closer look at another behavior that can quietly erode connection, showing little or no interest in others' lives. At the heart of any meaningful relationship lies reciprocity. It's not just about being heard, it's also about listening, caring, and showing genuine interest in the lives of others. When an older adult becomes consumed by their own concerns, be it ongoing health issues, routines, or daily frustrations, while rarely asking about or engaging with those around them, conversations can feel one-sided. Over time, this dynamic can become emotionally exhausting. Imagine a caregiver or family member stopping by to visit, only to have the entire exchange revolve around one person's complaints or needs. There's no, "How have you been?" or "Tell me about your day." Over time, that absence of interest starts to feel like a void, one that can leave the other person feeling invisible, even resentful. This behavior can come from different roots. For some, chronic pain, discomfort, or anxiety about aging can dominate their thoughts so completely that they have little emotional bandwidth left for others. For others, mild cognitive changes may make it harder to follow more complex or emotional conversations. In certain cases, long-term social isolation may dull the ability to relate meaningfully, simply because they've lacked regular exposure to others' lives, ideas, and emotions. But no matter the cause, the result tends to be the same. Family members and friends may feel like their role has shifted from companion to caretaker, or worse, to background noise. When someone feels like their stories, challenges, or victories no longer matter, it becomes easier to slowly step away emotionally. That's why even small changes can make a world of difference. Older adults can practice active listening by asking open-ended questions, showing curiosity, and reflecting on what they hear. Something as simple as, "How's work going for you these days?" or "What's something you're excited about lately?" can open the door to a two-way exchange. Not every conversation needs to be deep, but when older adults show genuine curiosity, it helps rebuild emotional connection and signals. Your life matters to me too. Wouldn't it feel better to be part of someone's life story, not just the center of your own? Asking a simple question like, "What's been going on with you lately?" can open the door to more meaningful, heartfelt conversations. When older adults take the time to ask and truly listen, it shows care and respect for others' lives. Family members can also help nurture this dynamic by sharing stories, current challenges, or small wins of their own. Engaging in shared activities, such as revisiting an old hobby or watching a thoughtful film together, can also create moments of genuine connection. For those facing cognitive difficulties, even simple conversations, kept clear and patient, can be powerful. When mutual curiosity and compassion flow both ways, relationships become more fulfilling, more balanced, and more deeply rooted across generations. Now, let's turn to a more sensitive yet important behavior: using age or illness as a tool for manipulation. It's true that aging often brings real health struggles, chronic pain, mobility issues, or emotional lows that deserve compassion and care. But when someone begins to use their age or illness to guilt others, avoid responsibilities, or gain sympathy through exaggeration, it can quietly corrode the trust that relationships depend on. This kind of manipulation might show up in subtle phrases like, "You wouldn't understand because I'm old and sick," or by repeatedly magnifying symptoms to gain attention or push loved ones into action. Over time, even well-meaning family members may start to feel emotionally cornered. questioning whether their support is being respected or exploited. Why does this happen? In some cases, the root may lie in a loss of control. An individual who once managed a household, a business, or a family might now feel powerless and turn to manipulation as a way to feel heard or regain some authority. In other cases, it may be a learned behavior, something they've found effective in the past and now rely on out of habit. For some, deeper struggles like anxiety, depression, or feelings of abandonment may be fueling the need to seek reassurance in unhealthy ways. Regardless of intent, the outcome can be the same. Relationships grow tense. Caregivers may feel drained, resented, or emotionally manipulated, making it harder for them to offer help freely and wholeheartedly. To address this delicate issue, loved ones need to walk a fine line, balancing kindness with honesty. Validating real concerns while gently setting clear boundaries is essential. A response like, "I'm here to support you, but let's talk about this openly," communicates both empathy and firmness. It tells the individual, "You are seen, you are heard," but manipulation will not be the path to connection. With open hearts and respectful dialogue, even this tough pattern can be softened, restoring trust, mutual dignity, and emotional closeness in the relationship. Encouraging honest communication while recognizing someone's emotional needs is essential in shifting the relationship dynamic away from subtle manipulation and toward healthier, more respectful dialogue. Professional support, such as counseling or therapy, can offer older adults a safe space to explore more effective and constructive ways to express their vulnerabilities and ask for help without guilt or pressure. By creating an atmosphere grounded in transparency and mutual respect, relationships can heal, grow, and thrive, built on sincerity rather than unspoken tension. When both parties feel safe to speak and listen with compassion, connection becomes more authentic, and emotional closeness is naturally restored. Now, let's talk about something that often slips under the radar: resisting opportunities for social engagement. As people age, social isolation becomes one of the most serious, yet underestimated risks. While it's completely normal to value rest, quiet, and a more predictable routine, especially when physical energy begins to decline, completely withdrawing from social interactions can gradually lead to deeper loneliness, disconnection, and even mental health decline. This withdrawal may not be dramatic. It might show up subtly, like turning down invitations to family events, opting out of group activities, or brushing off efforts from loved ones to connect. Yet over time, these small refusals can build a wall between the individual and the outside world, making the path back to meaningful relationships harder to navigate. What often causes this kind of resistance? Physical ailments, such as joint pain, fatigue, or difficulty moving, can make the idea of leaving home feel overwhelming. Emotional struggles, like the grief of losing a partner or close friend, may leave someone feeling unmotivated or even afraid to bond again. And for others, there may be self-doubt or social anxiety, especially if they're coping with hearing loss, mild cognitive changes, or simply a sense that they no longer fit in. Isn't it easy to see how one quiet no can slowly snowball into months of silence? To counteract this, families and caregivers can play a powerful role, not by pushing, but by gently encouraging. Simple gestures like offering transportation, choosing quieter or more familiar settings, or inviting the individual to help plan the activity can make a huge difference. Reframing participation as a way to stay active, stay sharp, and stay connected, not just as a social obligation, can also help reignite interest. Sometimes, just one positive experience, one warm smile at a community event, or one engaging conversation over tea can remind someone of the joy and meaning that connection brings. In many cases, retreating from social engagement may seem like the more comfortable or even safer option. After all, quiet time at home can feel familiar, manageable, and less emotionally demanding than stepping into a room full of people or navigating unfamiliar social dynamics. But over time, this gradual withdrawal, though unintentional, can lead to serious consequences. Reduced social interaction isn't just about missing a chat over coffee or skipping a gathering. It can accelerate cognitive decline, increase the risk of depression or anxiety, and unintentionally damage relationships with loved ones who might feel pushed away or unimportant. Family members and friends may start to feel that their efforts to reach out are unreciprocated, which can slowly erode connection and trust. To address this growing disconnect, it's important for loved ones to help initiate small, manageable steps toward re-engagement without overwhelming the individual. The key is to focus on what feels natural and enjoyable for them. For example, instead of insisting on a large family gathering, why not suggest a quiet outing to their favorite cafe, or invite them to join a virtual book club where they can participate from the comfort of home? Offering gentle logistical support, such as helping with transportation, mobility aids, or even setting up a video call, can remove physical and emotional barriers that may be holding them back. Community-based programs tailored specifically for seniors, like low-impact exercise groups, art workshops, or hobby circles, can offer a structured, welcoming environment that promotes organic social connection. Equally important is emotional validation. Acknowledge that the idea of socializing again may feel intimidating. Let them know it's okay to feel hesitant, and that you're there to support, not to pressure. When encouragement is rooted in empathy, it becomes easier for them to take that first small step. Over time, these gradual reintroductions can reignite their sense of belonging and help rebuild the meaningful relationships that keep the heart and mind strong. Now, as we reflect on everything we've covered today, take a moment to think, which of these everyday behaviors spoke to you the most? Was there one particular insight that shifted how you view aging or how you interact with someone you love? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Please take a moment to share in the comments one key thing you've learned from this video and how you plan to put it into practice. If you found today's video helpful and enlightening, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more empowering content. Wishing you continued health, happiness, and peace, and remember to subscribe to Healthy Aging Blueprint to stay connected.